Iowa's News Now Sports brings you black and gold glory. Your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks.
Whenever you go against a team of their caliber, it's always going to be high energy, high expectations, and when you have a fan base like they have, and from what we've heard, a night whiteout game is going to be amazing as well.
Oh, Captain, my new captain, Luke Lachey, couldn't have introduced our rundown for today's show any better. Welcome to another episode of Eye on the Hawks. Our guest this week, I'm sure, well remembered by fans of a certain generation, Dan Dickel, a former Iowa linebacker, defensive end, played a few seasons in the league, and a salt-of-the-earth kind of guy. Dan, we appreciate you joining us for today's episode of Eye on the Hawks. We want to get your analysis after the first few games. First of all, for this year's Hawkeye team, kind of grade this team. How do you feel like you've seen this team out there on the field?
Well, I think obviously with a new quarterback and a few other new players, they are going through some growing pains, but I'm real pleased with what I've seen. I think they are going to have a good season.
You're a defensive guy. I mean, you've seen that defense out there. Is this kind of what you come to expect out of them? Obviously, another really dominant defensive presence.
Oh, certainly. I love the Iowa's defense. It would have been fun to play for a group like that, and yeah, they seem to just keep doing it year after year.
Well, you heard Luke refer to the whiteout. Over 106,000 Penn State fans at Beaver Stadium. Whiteout to the gills, a college football atmosphere you have to see to believe, and the Hawkeyes are happy to take on the challenge.
I really like night games. It's just different energy levels. Just everybody's a lot more bought in and a lot more excited to be there. So I don't know what it is that changes, but it's always a different atmosphere when you play at night.
We've been talking about it this whole week, like just loving how it's going to be so loud in there, the whiteout game. We just like, it's going to be really cool to go there and play in that type of atmosphere. Like, we like that they even booked that game for us to do that, so we're pretty excited for that.
Of course, it's a historic game, and for them, it's going to be a great atmosphere for us. We look forward to the challenge.
In the words of Michael Jackson, don't matter if you're black or white. Penn State has the white out, and I will be taking on a new look with black pants instead of the traditional white on gold. Some fresh drip for Iowa's biggest game of the season.
I'm very excited. We're going to look good, and once again, we're going to play good. And
yeah, new look is definitely cool, changing it up a little bit, make you feel good, like Deion says, feel good, play good. So we like to feel that way. I think it's going to help us a little bit in the department, just having a little more swagger to us.
It's a good time to remind you that this game kicks off at 6:30 on CBS, Iowa's first game on the Columbia Broadcasting System in 26 years, when Iowa played Arizona State in the Sun Bowl in 1997. It's the first regular season game of the Hawkeyes will play on CBS since 1986. That's the year I was born, against Michigan. Now, Dan, it's a primetime game in a hostile environment, a whiteout. How do you think that Iowa will respond to a really hostile environment on the road?
Well, they responded well at Iowa State, so I'm assuming that that was a good game to have before Penn State, and they'll do fine.
Looking ahead at Iowa's schedule, I mean, this Penn State game is probably going to be their toughest challenge of the regular season. Do you think that plays to their advantage, having that tough game this early in this season, or would they rather be playing that game down the road?
That's a good question. I think now is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, each week it's a new game, and you still have to give your full best effort every week. So whether it's early or late, just take them as they come.
Got to go out there and play the game still. Well, 3 of Iowa's top 4 offensive playmakers are out of the lineup this weekend. Tight end Luke Lachey will be out for likely the entire season. He had surgery this week after suffering a gruesome injury on Saturday. He's Iowa's leading receiver through 3 games, and the injury is weighing heavy right now on the hearts of his teammates.
I see everyone just working extra hard now, knowing that Luke's out. We know we want to get Luke back as soon as possible and win games while Luke is out.
Losing Luke was a really big factor for the offense, of course, but we have dudes that could step up, and it's just next man in at this point.
That's my guy. He's my roommate. So yeah, he's going to be a groomsman at my wedding. So we're good buddies. So obviously it was just tough to see him go down like that, and I know he's excited for me, and I got his back through all this. I'll probably have to be taking him to the facility in the early mornings to get rehab and stuff. So we're good buddies, and just want to do anything I can to support him and be there for him.
Well, Luke's future chauffeur, you just heard from him, that's Steven Stylianos. He's one of the number of tight ends who can fill in for Luke. Michigan transfer Eric All started every game along with Lachey. Sophomore Addison Estrenga waiting for his opportunity as well, but Stylianos will likely be seeing a lot more targets. His opportunity just happens to come as Iowa goes into its biggest game of the season.
I feel like once I hit someone for the first time, the nerves will be gone, but you know, this is what you train for. You have to prepare every game like you're going to be thrown in there just because you never know what's going to happen.
Starting this spring, we started to see that. Like he felt like, hey, I'm getting this a little bit, and I think I understand what they're asking me to do. And I thought he did a really nice job Saturday, and he'll get more snaps now as we move forward.
This is my 6th year of college football, so I am older. It's not like I'm a 18-year-old kid getting thrown in there, but I mean, this is what you work for, and you know, I've put in tons of hours, and just as a kid, this is all you can dream of. So you just got to be ready when your number's called. So I think that's just my mindset going into it.
Dan Dickel still here with us on Eye on the Hawks. Tight end, Dan, is one of the most important positions in this Iowa offense. Can they weather this storm now that they're going to be dealing without Luke Lachey in the lineup?
Well, I was real impressed with the guys that came in this last week. They definitely have a great depth there at tight end, and it's always been Iowa's philosophy: next guy in and keep the job going, and I'm sure they'll do fine.
Is there any time back when you were playing for the Hawkeyes in the early 70s that you had anything similar happen where a star player goes down and somebody else kind of had to step in for him?
Well, you're asking me to remember a long ways back. I actually remember that's how I got my opportunity when I was a sophomore. The defensive end ahead of me was hurt, and I got my opportunity, and they moved him to tight end the next year.
Is that right?
So yeah, you just, you know, as a player, you practice to play, and so you better be ready to go when your time is up.
Well, Lachey isn't the only missing piece. Iowa will be without their top 2 running backs on the depth chart. Kirk Ferentz confirming this week that Kaleb Johnson and Jazz Patterson are both out for lower leg injuries. Sounds like they will be back at some point this year, but it's unclear exactly when.
Both Jazz and Kaleb won't be available this week, so we'll evaluate that with each week as we go forward, but they're both going to be out Saturday, so we'll go with the guys that we finished up with the other day.
No, I don't feel no pressure. I mean, I've been here before, done this. I mean, I'm prepare hard, watch film, study, and I'm prepared. I believe in my ability, and I'm very confident in myself.
We just heard there from LaShawn Williams, who filled in a lot there this last Saturday, but even with Kaleb, with Jazz out of the lineup, is that going to hurt Iowa's chances, you feel like, against Penn State?
Well, it looked like Iowa's depth in the running back room also was really good. I was very impressed with those young guys that kept coming in. I think the big improvement, though, obviously, is the offensive line. They're doing a better job. They've grown from that first game, and you know, they make some holes and just let that back run.
So they asked, where do you want to kick it? And I said left to middle, and they put it on the right hash, like my least favorite hash of kicking. And so I look back and just kind of laugh. You know, sometimes things just happen the way they're supposed to happen.
It's been 15 years now since an iconic Iowa upset over the Nittany Lions. Mitch Fick talks one-on-one with the Hawkeye hero that day, kicker Daniel Murray. That's next on Eye on the Hawks. Well, this Penn State-Iowa series has been back and forth since Kirk Ferentz took over. The Nittany Lions have won 17 of 32 meetings overall, but it's tied 11-11 since they joined the Big Ten in 1993. Hawkeyes actually have a winning record in Happy Valley all time, and Ferentz is 10-8 against them. The last time they played was in 2021 when the number 3 Hawkeyes came back to put 4th-ranked Penn State 23-20 with a Ncaa Ragaini touchdown with 6 minutes left in the game. The Hawkeye defense sealed that win. Another classic Iowa-Penn State matchup in the Kirk Ferentz era in Kinnick 15 years ago when an undefeated and 3rd-ranked Nittany Lions came to Iowa City. Last-second field goal from Daniel Murray gave the Hawkeyes the upset victory. Now, Mitch Fick spoke with Daniel this week about the kick and the feelings heading into that game in 2008.
Going into that game, they're undefeated. They're ranked 3rd in the country. What was the feeling welcoming the Nittany Lions into Kinnick that day?
From a team perspective, you know, I think we were just starting to hit some of that strides, then led into the next year, into the Orange Bowl year and things like that. So it was kind of a unique moment there, and that kind of, I think, was that tipping point to get us pushed over there. And I'd say probably 3 to 4 games before Penn State, I finally started really playing consistently and kicking consistently, and really kind of showed on the practice field. And then as they went to the game, I can't remember if it was that game or the game before that I had started taking the longer field goals and kickoffs and stuff like that. So going into the kick, I was as they're marching down the field, I'm warming up, and then when they got inside, I think it was the 30-yard line, it was supposed to go to Trent, and then that's when our kicking coach at the time, Lester, came down and said, basically, you're going to take it no matter what. And not sure exactly who made that call, but then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it's really game time. Trying to focus yourself for that, knowing that it's pretty much going to come down to it. And I still laugh looking back at the kick, because naturally I kind of have a draw or a slight hook on my kicks, and so I prefer to hit from the left hash so I can kind of fade it in. And so they asked, where do you want to kick it? And I said left to middle, and they put it on the right hash, like my least favorite hash of kicking. And so I look back and just kind of laugh. Sometimes things just happen the way they're supposed to happen, whether you had them playing or not. And so that's kind of the fun part looking back is, you kind of keep your head up and keep pushing through some of the tough times, because things sometimes don't always go your way. And you can either kind of get stuck in the moment or try and figure your way out, and keep pushing, and was able to kind of set myself up for that moment.
And Logan's done a great job, senior, and just a tremendous player, tremendous leader.
New captain steps in for the Big Ten opener. After the break, we'll discuss Logan Lee's new role on the team and how that defense shapes up with Jamari Harris back in the lineup. That and more after the break on Eye on the Hawks.
Move forward, learn from any lesson, every lesson. It was a mistake. And, today makes 23 years. 23 years of life, I've made plenty of mistakes. I'm sure I'm going to make a lot more. But the key is acknowledging it and finding a way to be better.
Well, that was Jamari Harris this week. He wanted to come out and make a statement about serving a 2-game suspension for his involvement in the gambling charges. We're back right now on Eye on the Hawks with Dan Dickel as our guest this week. Dan, don't know if you want to share any of the mistakes that you would have made back when you were a college student, but going back to Jamari's return, it seems like right now he's just trying to make ownership of his mistakes, and that's about all you can do about it at this point.
Yeah, and I admire that, and I think it probably earned the respect of his fellow teammates.
Well, one of the defensive guys is Logan Lee. He's now been added as one of the team captains for Saturday after Luke Lachey's injury. Now, Dan, you were one of the Iowa captains during that 1973 season. Can you express a little bit about what it must mean to Logan to be named a captain for this week?
It's a real honor. I mean, you're representing not just your fellow players, but you're representing the university and all of the fans and everyone, and it's a great honor, and I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, I know you've maybe gotten to know Logan just a little bit. Can you speak to his character some and what he must mean to his teammates?
Yeah, I'm sure that he's well respected by his teammates. I'm fortunate every once in a while I get to go and speak to the chapel service that they have every week for the Iowa team, and he was a guy that I got to meet there first, and he was the one who introduced me to the team, and so I just that little bit with him, I thought this is a special guy.
Sure. Well, now taking a closer look at Iowa's opponent this week, the strongest team on Iowa's schedule so far and likely the toughest team the Hawks will play in the regular season. Top 15 in the country in both scoring, offense, and defense. Weapons on both sides of the ball. Curtis Fader, he's going to join us now to give us a deeper dive on the 7th-ranked team in the country.
Iowa's introduction to Big Ten play can't really get much tougher than playing against a team ranked 7th in the country in Penn State. And this Nittany Lion offense will be this Hawkeye defense's not only biggest challenge, but biggest litmus test to see if this unit can hold up like the units of old. The big reason why is their new QB1, Drew Aller. After what feels like a decade of Sean Clifford, Aller has shown enough of his arms and legs to be a threat anywhere on the field. Already with 737 yards and 4 touchdowns this season, with 2 of Penn State's 3 opponents a Power 5 school. With that being said, Iowa's D, they don't seem too worried.
Yeah, good. You could tell he's a natural born leader, just the way he communicates with his receivers, his O-line. I mean, we're going to try to make it extremely challenging as if we possibly can, but he's a good quarterback. Just trying to make things come a little bit harder for them this week.
Big task for this defense is trying to get to Aller, but that is easier said than done when the Nittany Lions have Olu Fashanu on the roster. The 6'6", 315-pound junior left tackle is Pro Football Focus's top tackle in the nation, and he is highly regarded as a future first-rounder. People say coaches ask players to run through a brick wall. Well, these Hawkeyes might just have to do that. But these Hawks are definitely up for the challenge.
Oh, he is, he's, again, big, and he's willing to stay on the double teams as long as necessary. Okay. So just trying to hold your ground as much as possible, hold point, and get knocked back on the guard, so that puts the tackle and the guard on different levels is going to be huge. They're a big O-line. They have really good running backs, quarterbacks. They're just really solid all the way across, and it's pretty exciting to be able to have the opportunity to go against guys like this and see and kind of test us to see where we're at too.
The way the schedule currently looks for Iowa, this might be the only game the Hawkeyes are going to be underdogs, and a win in Happy Valley might turn some heads on what this Iowa team can accomplish going forward.
Well, after the break, we'll make some game predictions for the weekend. Dan Dickel is going to have some parting words for us, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this great football mind for anything else we'll need to know by Saturday. We'll wrap it up after the break here on Eye on the Hawks. Welcome back to Eye on the Hawks with our guest this week, Iowa Hawkeye, Baltimore Colts legend, Dan Dickel. Dan, before we get to our game predictions for this week, you played a handful of seasons in the NFL with the Colts, a little bit with the Lions as well. You know what it takes to play at the highest level. Just speak a little bit about what it's going to take for a lot of these Iowa guys to make it to the NFL. What some of the work is that they're going to need to put in to get to that point.
I think it's been proven that they are coming from a system that really works. Iowa has so many players in the NFL now, and it's because they've learned how here at Iowa to do things often in the way that the professionals do it. And so they have a great opportunity, and I'm sure they'll just keep filling those rosters with Iowa players as they keep because they've learned it at Iowa.
Well, Dan, we're going to get your opinion on the Iowa-Penn State game in a second, but first let's pick some other games for this week. A Big 12 opener for Iowa State at home against Oklahoma State, a team that just lost to South Alabama at home. Cyclones are a favorite in spite of a loss to Ohio this last week. Dan, who do you like between Iowa State and the Cowboys?
Well, I'm sure Coach Campbell has Iowa State's full attention this week, and I'm going to root for the Iowa State team.
Something you probably don't do very often, but I kind of like Iowa State in this game as well. Oklahoma State, I mean, both these teams are coming off a really surprising loss, but I think Campbell's going to have Iowa State ready to respond. Potentially the biggest game of the week, 6th-ranked Ohio State going to South Bend for a date with number 9, Notre Dame. The Buckeyes are favorites right now. Who do you like between Notre Dame and the Buckeyes?
I don't like either of them, but I'm going to say Notre Dame's going to win this one.
Feelings mutual across much of our great state, I'm sure. As much as it pains me sometimes to pick the Buckeyes, I do think they might have a little bit more talent in the tank over a team like Notre Dame. Finally, Iowa, a 2-touchdown underdog in Happy Valley Saturday on CBS 2. Who wins this game, Dan, and why do you say so?
I remember when Iowa won the one game, I think it was like 6-4 there, and it's going to be a close game, but I can't vote against Iowa. I say 10-7 Iowa.
That would be a Kirk Ferentz score for the ages. I'm sure he'd love to see a 10-7 game. Before the season, Mike, Mitch, and myself did some predictions of what would happen in each game. I think I picked Penn State to win this one. Got to give them the advantage on their home, but Iowa does always seem to find a way to play well, both in Happy Valley and against Penn State when they're a top 10 team. So it will be a close game. I would imagine that is going to be within those 14 points, if that tells you anything. Well, that does it for Week 4 of Eye on the Hawks. Scan the QR code on the screen to download, subscribe, and listen to Eye on the Hawks podcast. We have a preview podcast up right now and also have an extended version of the show that you're watching at the moment. That's ready for download. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Every week we're going to be doing a live stream on YouTube reacting to the Iowa game. You can interact with us at noon on Sunday. Great to pair with some NFL football on TV, and you can follow along at Iowa's News Now on YouTube. We're going to send out the link from our Eye on the Hawks Twitter/X account. We want to thank again Dan Dickel for joining us today. Dan, always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining us this week on Eye on the Hawks.